Doctor, you had mentioned earlier, you gave a great summation of what the reality is of critical race theory. And sort of speaking about that from an education standpoint for a moment, what do you make of what we've seen as sort of this ginned up controversy? And I'll say ginned up because you're absolutely right. This is really a discussion that happens in college classrooms, and now we're seeing school boards, famously in Loudoun County in Virginia, and school boards really across the country engage in an argument that's based on a fruitless premise. But it does bring into conversation the idea that we are, as a country, starting to re-examine the role that the role that race plays in curriculum, and the way we understand as a country the need to have this conversation from classrooms to homes, really all over. What do you sort of make sense of what we're seeing play out in school boards, and what I would consider sort of this drummed up controversy over this concept that we call critical race theory?
Well, just generally speaking, I think that folks are concerned, particularly older generations of people, that their children are going to look at them and say, the way in which you conducted yourself is unacceptable. I have learned through history that this is what was going on. So what I think was happening with critical race theory, or any theory that offers critical thinking, you're not allowing people to have independent thought, is that there is a confusion that awareness will equal hate. And I think when you start taking things away and saying kids are better off not knowing this, you are underestimating their power of humanity. Teach transparency about groups of people rather than saying, we don't want you to learn this because it's teaching hate, it's hate mongering and things of that nature. You're also not giving teachers the benefit of the doubt how to introduce sensitive subject matter. So let's just talk about what critical race theory actually is. And I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence. I'm just going to make it as plain as simple. It's a way of looking at the racial impact of legal sanctions. And it's a way to incorporate not just straightforward statistics of policing, but people's stories. Okay, what was really going on? So it's ethnographic research that's involved. What was going on? What is the other side? What is the voice of the other side that's being convicted, incarcerated? What does it mean? What is the outcome of these consequences? What is the impact? So critical race theory goes along those lines. Does it come off as blaming? Well, if the shoe fits, then you have to certainly wear it. But we are just living in a society now where we're not allowing, in my professional opinion, young people the opportunity to be critical thinkers until they become freshmen in college. And by that time, the expectation of professors is that they arrive as critical thinkers. But a lot of my students have been in sociologists, but they never heard of W.E.B. Du Bois. The only person that they've ever been taught of is Martin Luther King and maybe Malcolm X as the opposites. So when you talk about this idea of quote unquote critical race theory, they're thinking that you're being critical about race from a theoretical perspective. And the race, or the sort of sacrificial lamb here, is whiteness. So, and nobody wants to go through that. They see it as confrontational. They see it as putting the blame on the so-called white man, or quote unquote, the system. And again, the unwillingness to hear the other side. I mean, there's so many hours in the day which this can happen. The legislating it away. And it's in reality, all you're really doing when you start taking things away from kids, and we've all been kids, as soon as you tell us what we can't do, that's what we're going to go try to find out about. That's what we're going to go to try to find out about. So why they're taking it away is because my personal opinion is they're conflating awareness with teaching hate. And so now when you're doing it, I think the sort of compromise has been, if you teach about slavery, you have to teach about it from a good and positive standpoint, pros and cons of each. So you have to try to level the field. History is what it is. There's a lot of wrong that we have done, and not talking about it only allows us to continue to revisit.